From the High Definition Production Center of Troy University's Broadcast and Digital Network and Troy campuses around the world, this is Troy TrojanVision Weekly.
Hello and welcome to Troy TrojanVision Weekly. We're glad you joined us for this look at what's happening in and around Troy University. I'm your host, Aaron Taylor. Well, Troy University's Confucius Institute's mission is to help spread knowledge about Chinese culture to Americans. But it isn't just happening on the Troy campus. As Courtney Chandler tells us from the Trojan News Bureau in Montgomery, the Institute is branching out into one of the area's newest, greatest schools.
The Confucius Institute is a program on the campus of Troy University that allows students to learn more about Chinese culture on campus. On Friday, Troy University had the opportunity to expand the institute to neighboring schools at a ceremony held at Troy's Montgomery campus.
We established the Confucius Institute in 2007, and we've worked hard to create a culture of internationalization at Troy. And now we're spreading that culture statewide.
The Confucius Institute will now be expanded to schools in Montgomery and Pike Road for younger children to learn and experience Chinese culture.
We're grateful to Troy and grateful to our school system as along Pike Road to join with this, to be able to educate our kids, the total child. And as Dr. Hawkins said, and each one of the superintendents, it really is about the child, about our kids. They are our future. To the extent that they learn about worldwide activities, it's important.
Mayor Gordon Stone of Pike Road said that this was not only a victory for schools, but also for the community and its citizens as well.
Working with the Confucius Institute allows us to not only have it in the classroom, but to also talk about ways that we can have after-school activities, have family-inclusive activities, have opportunities to talk with industry and businesses from China that may want to come and be a part of what we're doing to broaden our economic base in Pike Road. So there are lots of benefits that will come as a result of this.
Hawkins says that bringing the Confucius Institute to the Montgomery and Pike Road school system will not only be exciting for children, but it will also bridge the gap between American and Chinese culture to the community.
Yeah, I think it'll open doors and it'll help them to understand the world's people in a very different way.
Each school received $20,000 to allow children and citizens to learn and be exposed to Chinese culture through the Confucius Institute. In Montgomery, Courtney Chandler, Troy, TrojanVision News.
And students at Charles Henderson Middle School in Troy will soon get the opportunity to learn more about Chinese culture thanks to a partnership with the Confucius Institute. Jordan Elston has the details.
Troy University's Confucius Institute held a ceremony Friday afternoon to announce the Chinese courses that will soon be implemented at Charles Henderson Middle School in Troy.
Today we are opening the Confucius classroom at Charles Henderson Middle School. After several years of establishing Confucius classrooms in other cities in the Alabama, we're finally here in our own hometown opening one in this middle school.
The ceremony included a speaker and traditional Chinese performances to engage the students.
Highlights of the ceremony, besides the dedication of the Confucius classroom with a plaque, will include some performances that reflect Chinese culture and art.
Troy University's Confucius Institute has already been implemented in high schools, but now they're looking forward to introducing middle schoolers to a new culture.
I think this is going to have the effect of opening the eyes of children in middle school. We've been doing this in high schools, but this is going to open the eyes of children in the middle school years about the wider world, how cultures differ, how people differ, but how so many values are the same.
The classrooms will give students the opportunity to work with scholars to learn more about the Chinese culture.
The students in the classrooms are going to have the opportunity on a regular basis to have our visiting scholars associated with the Confucius Institute come into the classroom and give them opportunities to work with language and culture and arts activities associated with China.
University Student Support Services helped at-risk students succeed while in college. Now the program has received a sizable grant to help towards that goal. Haley Greathouse has the details.
Troy University Student Support Services has received the largest grant awarded to any four-year institution in the nation by the U.S. Department of Education for Student Support Services.
Well, Student Support Services is a federally funded program, and we're designed and federally mandated to work with first-generation, low-income, and disabled students. Currently, we have 555 participants in the slot, main campus. We have 185 and about 185 for Montgomery and Dothan as well.
These students come from low-income backgrounds, and the program helps them to graduate college. The program applied for a grant and first heard back this summer.
On July the 20th, our office was truly rejoicing because it was on that day that we received the official email from the Department of Ed. It was later, I guess, that we discovered that not only had we been funded, but that we had been awarded $4.1 million to serve our students over a 5-year period.
The program helps students to become active and productive members of their communities, including going back to work for Student Support Services. All staff members come from first-generation low-income families and are affected by the grant as much as the students.
We have a large staff. We have 5 here on main campus and about 5 on each of the other campuses, and we have a number of peer tutors as well and student workers. So not only would it affect the lives of our students, it also affects the lives of our employees. So when we received the grant for another 5 years, we were very much grateful and relieved that we could offer this service to Troy University and Troy University community and the students and also the employees.
Haley Greathouse, Troy, Trojan Vision News.
Troy's police department now has a new man in charge. The new chief officially took over the department in a ceremony on Wednesday afternoon. Casey Freeman has the story.
On Wednesday, Chief Randall Barr was sworn into office, and he says the police department is already on solid ground.
I look forward to our future. I don't see, whole-scale changes taking place. We're on solid ground. We've got a good police department. We've got, we've got good employees and good supervisors. So, we've got to work to build our relationships with the community, keep those relationships strong, and be open and honest in everything that we do, and be as transparent as possible.
There's always room for improvement, and Mayor Reeves explains how the department plans on growing.
We're working on several things. We've actually recently upped our numbers from 49 to 56. We intend to spend quite a bit on capital improvements with cars and equipment. We are in the process of implementing a computer-assisted dispatch system. So we want to stay on the cutting edge of law enforcement. We felt like we've always done that, and I know Chief Barr will continue to lead us in that direction.
Although the chief is in charge of Troy city limits, he wants to reassure university students that on-campus safety is still a priority.
Well, we are assisting the university and have stepped up patrol in those areas. Of course, we certainly ask that everybody be vigilant and use the buddy system. Make sure somebody knows where you're going. Make sure you have a partner with you if it's all possible. And, we're just a phone call away.
Barr takes over for former Chief Jimmy Ennis, who retired last Friday. We're going to take a short break, but when we return, we'll see how Troy University students were searching for that ever-important first job out of college. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Look at me. Hey.
Raymond, look at Mommy.
Maybe the light hurts his eyes.
Maybe she's just not hungry. Maybe he can't hear us. Maybe we're not stimulating him enough. Maybe it's a phase.
Avoiding eye contact is one early sign of autism. Learn the others today. The sooner it's diagnosed, the better.
Looks like it's done.
Don't let salmonella get funky with your chicken. On average, 1 in 6 Americans will get a foodborne illness this year. You can't see these microbes, but they might be there. So learn the right temperature to cook each type of meat. Keep your family safe at foodsafety.gov.
Now back to Troy Trojan Vision News Weekly.
The Common Reader is a book selected for all incoming and first-year students to Troy University to read. This year's book was A Long Way Home, a memoir of a boy soldier. On Tuesday, the author of the book visited Troy University to talk to students about his book. Xavier Harris has the details.
Tuesday evening, students gathered to hear a lecture of Troy University's Common Reader Initiative, where the author of the book gave students a lecture about the book and his life.
Every incoming student, every first-year student reads a book, the same book, whether it be here on our Troy campus or one of the other Alabama campuses or on eTroy. And this year's was a long way gone, and so we have all kinds of activities during the year for students to get together, discuss the book, talk about what happened, and this year we're fortunate enough to have the author come.
Ishmael Bia, the author of the book, explains how he feels when a group of students has actually read and comprehended his book.
I think for a writer it's always a blessing to see that, but particularly for the issue that I wrote about, it moves me more because this issue continues in the world. So the fact that people are still reading it and are knowledgeable about it, for me, that's where the difference is. I'm happy that that issue is still forefront in their mind.
And after the lecture, some students explain how they have taken so many things for granted, and one specific student tells how the book makes her feel she can overcome just about anything.
I can take from this book that no matter what happens, I mean, he was a child soldier in Sierra Leone, and that's such a normal thing for him to say, but for me, I can't grasp it. So I can take from this book that no matter what, I can still triumph over everything. And on page 70, I love that he said, "I close my eyes and wait for death." That was such a strong, I don't love that, but it was such a strong sentence to me because that's all he could do was close his eyes and wait for death.
Xavier Harris, Troy, TrojanVision News.
Some Troy University students had the chance to make that first step towards finding that ever-important first job on Thursday at the Fall Career Fair. William McCarthy has the details.
On Thursday, Troy University students and faculty gathered in Sartain Hall to participate at the Career Fair. It was put together by the university's career services to help students find jobs after graduation and talk with their future employers.
Today is our big all majors career fair. We've got 53 employers here. We pretty much filled up Sartain Hall, and all students and even alumni are invited. So I hope they find some good opportunities.
The career fair was not just for students, but the fair was also to help anyone in the city of Troy and from surrounding areas.
We think it's important to try to interact with the community when we can. We want local employers to come to our fair. Of course, it's great to have part-time jobs for students too, but we're really focusing on those full-time career type jobs, but also internships. So lower classmen can come and start to look at internships and getting their foot in the door places too.
For most of these students today, they're talking with their future employers. Then there are some who are talking with recruiters about joining our armed forces.
We've got a good selection of employers. We've got some business-oriented ones like Wells Fargo, some banks, regions, some broadcast journalism type with a couple of news stations like WSFA. We've got a few technology companies that have come. There's one that's Rural Sourcing. They do a lot of computer programming, as does CGI.
If any student couldn't make it to the career fair on Thursday, they can always go to Career Services in Eldridge Hall.
So they can come and see us anytime. If we're not available right then, we'll set up an appointment with them. They can come have their resume reviewed. They can do a mock interview where we just do practice interviewing, give them some feedback. And then they can also come in and just sign up for our Trojan Link resources on our website. That's where all job postings go that we get from employers.
William McCarthy, Troy, TrojanVision News.
On Wednesday, Troy University students kicked off the homecoming festivities a little early by selecting this year's homecoming court. Samantha Charles has the details.
Homecoming is fast approaching, and that means it's time for homecoming queen elections. Students from across campus gathered to fill out their ballots and vote on who they think would best represent Troy.
Well, today is voting day. It's for the homecoming court. You get to pick up to 5 females that you want to represent Troy to the best of its abilities in hopes of being Troy University's homecoming queen.
This is only the first round of voting, and this election will narrow down the competition to just 5 young women. The second round will be an interview process conducted by faculty and staff at Troy University.
So today is the first from 8 to 5 in TC 215, everyone knows. So this is when the 24 girls will be narrowed down to 5. At the Troy versus South Alabama Rivalry Week game on Saturday, the winners, the top 5, will be announced between the 3rd and 4th quarters of the football game. So after that, the 5 will go and do interviews with people from the city of Troy, Troy University, Board of Trustees, anyone that they pick to do interviews. And from that, they will announce Homecoming Queen on the homecoming game on October 17th.
Torbert and Scott are 2 of the 24 young ladies vying for the crown, and they stated why they should be nominated.
I just think I do so much for the university that I just want to see all that I have done for Troy to just come to pass. I just really think that I represent Troy really well with my honors, that I would all the activities that I'm in, president of UAC, Habitat for Humanity. I just do a lot of stuff for the university. So I just really hope that, everybody goes out, exercise their rights to vote. That's the most important part. And I just really see that I'm a good fit to be in the running for Queen.
I love Troy. This is where I chose to come to college, and I mean, just like everyone else here, but I think how much Troy's given me, I want to give it back. I want students to come through their freshman year and see me in leadership positions and see all these girls in leadership positions and say, I have the ability to do this when I come in as a freshman. Troy means a lot to me and my family, and even the city of Troy too. So it would just be an honor to represent Troy University as the homecoming queen.
Samantha Charles, Troy, Trojan Vision News.
Many college-age students grew up reading the Harry Potter books and may have imagined living out the life of a wizard. Well, now there's an opportunity for Troy University students to actually live out their Hogwarts dreams and play the sport made famous by the boy wizard. Samantha Charles shows us how.
A spellbinding sport that was born out of wizards and witches riding around on broomsticks in J.K. Rowling's imagination has made its way onto Troy University's campus. Quidditch, a game once only for wizards and Harry Potter novels, has made its way into the Muggle world.
Quidditch is basically just an organization for overglorified nerds. We're Harry Potter fans, non-Harry Potter fans, people that want to be involved in something but don't really have a place yet. I mean, Quidditch is definitely Harry Potter, but we have some people that come to meetings that have never read or seen Harry Potter. They just heard it and saw us playing and thought, hey, this is cool. Let me go do this thing.
These students may not be your typical college jocks, but they're not just bookworms bound to libraries either.
Harry Potter was my childhood. Like, it was a friend for me whenever I didn't have a friend. And now I have all these people that don't look at me weird whenever I say, yeah, I play Quidditch. And, people think, oh, it's such nerds. Like, we're nerds, but it's not a bad thing. We don't judge people. And I don't think people judge us for being out here and playing. Like, it's just something fun that we do.
The Quidditch team here at Troy University allows students' imaginations to take flight and their Harry Potter realities to come to life.
What I really like about it is that, you can let your imagination fly off. When you have the broom between your legs, like it is awkward at first, but just imagining that you are flying, you do start to feel like you're flying. And just being out here with a bunch of friends, that also helps. The camaraderie that comes with playing and beating each other up.
Samantha Charles, Troy, Trojan Vision News.
For anyone who wants to join in on the fun, the Quidditch team practices every Tuesday and Thursday night at 6:30 on the intramural field next to Trojan Arena. Well, we're going to take another quick break. When we will come back, we'll hear some offerings from our friends at Troy Public Radio. So don't touch that dial.
Mom, can we get some ice cream? Please, Mom, please.
No, we're having dinner soon.
Please.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of children in foster care who will take you just as you are.
It's a beautiful day out here. Sunny today with light breezes, giving way to clouds in the afternoon. We could see some light precipitation to moderate precipitation later on, followed by powerful storm-like conditions. 90 miles per hour winds are expected. Authorities are asking everyone, stay indoors. Come on, that's it. Let's go.
Now back to Troy Trojan Vision News Weekly.
Each week we take some time to hear some of the work done by our broadcast partners at Troy Public Radio. As we do each week, we'll get another sample of Talk of Troy, the student-produced newscast of Troy Public Radio. Let's take a listen.
It's the Talk of Troy. Voices and sounds from the campuses of Troy University. I'm Kenya Taylor. Ishmael Bea is a former child soldier from Sierra Leone who documented his experiences in the book The Long Way Gone. This week, producer Thomas Gleason spoke with the author, whose book was picked as Troy's Common Reading Initiative.
Ishmael Bea is happy that schools like Troy have chosen his book because that means his message is getting across.
Because it means that there's going to be a lot of young people who are going to read this work that is going to introduce them into an experience that's very different from their lives.
He also says that students are getting the core ideas at the heart of his story.
What the nature of violence really is, what it does to human beings, but also the strength and spirit of the human being to resist and to come out of it if given the right care and support.
More information about Ishmael Bea and his book can be found at alongwaygone.com. For the Talk of Troy, I'm Thomas Gleaton.
Troy University's Student Support Services, also known as TRIO, offers a safe haven for new and current students to ask questions to broaden their college experience. Last week, TRIO was awarded a $4 million grant from the Department of Education. Coordinator Buffy Williams says the money will allow TRIO to continue to provide their services, which includes answering the tough questions students have.
They don't have anybody to ask those questions to. And sometimes they do things that for them are cultural norms, but may not be acceptable at a university.
For more information about TRIO and the grant, visit troy.edu/student support services. I'm Kenya Taylor, and you've been listening to The Talk of Troy, a production of Troy Public Radio.
Throughout the week, Troy Public Radio can be heard on 89.9 in Troy and Montgomery, 88.7 in Dothan, and 91.7 in Phoenix City. Well, it's time for our last break, but when we return, we'll hear more from the Common Reader author, Ishmael Bea. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
This is Dr. Daniel Smith. He's an expert in domestic and international economics. But his proudest achievement is connecting with his students and helping them accomplish more than they ever thought possible. That's the warrior spirit, and it's alive and well at Troy University. Feel it at troy.edu/spirit. The warrior spirit, it's in there. Always has been. Now let it out and take the world by fire. Train well and learn what it means to be a Troy Trojan. Walk with confidence, conquer, claim territory, and climb ladders. Know that you have the power to stand alone, but the comfort of knowing that you'll never have to. Discover your inner warrior. Find it at troy.edu/spirit.
Now back to Troy Trojan Vision News Weekly.
Troy University's Common Reader for this year is A Long Way Gone, Memoirs of a Boy Soldier. The author of the book, Ishmael Bea, is the guest on this week's edition of Trojan Talk. Hello and welcome to Trojan Talk. I'm your host, Aaron Taylor. Today we'll be talking about the author of this year's Common Reader at Troy University. He's my guest today, Ishmael Bea. Ishmael, thanks for joining me here today.
Hey.
And as I mentioned, you're the author of this year's Common Reader, A Long Way Gone, Memoirs of a Boy Soldier. All Troy University freshmen are reading this book this year, talking about it in classes, doing things about this book and learning about your story. Now, before we get into what Troy University is doing with it and how you feel, tell us a little bit about your story, how you came to write this book and where you came from to make this book happen.
Well, I'm very happy to be here. I was born in Sierra Leone, which is a very small country in West Africa. And during my very early childhood years, we had a civil war, and that war interrupted my life, and I lost everything that was dear to me, including my immediate family in the war. And then I was recruited to fight as a soldier in the war when I was 13. Now, I was fortunate enough to be removed from the fighting and went through all the processes to recover. And eventually, long story short, I was adopted into a family in the United States, and in New York I came to live, which is where I did my last 2 years of high school and then went on to higher education. But it was during that time that I was in the United States that really I began to think about the fact that most people did not know where I was coming from. And when they knew, there was no context. So writing the book really came out of that desire to give the human context to the story, to put a face to it. But most importantly, not only to introduce people to what the nature of violence is in war, but also the strength of the human spirit to pull through. You know, so these were the conversations that were not had when people would talk about it, and I wanted to change that.
And that's one of the things, when this book was first brought up here at the university, a lot of people learned something they didn't know. They didn't know about the child fighters. They didn't know about recruiting children to fight. And obviously now you've opened eyes to this horror that's going on over there. And how does that make you feel to be able to, I guess, open eyes to the public about something that's going on that many people don't know about?
Well, I think for me, you know, when you survive a situation like what I survived, there's a little bit of guilt that comes with it, in the sense that why me, why I survived, why many people did not. So when I decided to publish this book, for me it was a small price to pay for having survived, for having lived in a way. And also I knew, even though I was now in an environment where people were far removed from these realities, they may not even think about it, I knew it was going on as I went on with my daily life, having access to be able to eat 3-4 meals a day if I chose, going to schools that were functional, you know, living in a city where people were sort of naive about the state of the world. There was always that thing in the back of my head that there's a child who is going through what I'd been through. And how do I make sure to remind people constantly so that they don't forget? So that's the desire. You know?
Now, how long did the process take from when you first thought, I need to write this book, to actually getting it published and getting it out there to the people?
3 years.
Mm-hmm.
The writing process of it was 3 years. And then it took another 2 years to just get it published, you know, and things like that, you know. Yeah.
Had you done any kind of writing prior to that, even just small writing, or before you tried to tackle a full book?
Yes, I had written short stories,
Mm-hmm.
mostly fiction.
Mm-hmm.
And then actually when I was writing this book, I was never in the intention to publish it. I did it as a side project
Mm-hmm.
in university. I was a political science student, but one of the writing professors saw that I had a talent and said, you not only have a talent, but you also have a story. So I'm going to make sure you write something. So I wrote it, and I actually wanted to go to law school and all the rest of it before it got published.
Before it got published. Now, this book is being studied by Troy University students this year, freshmen. They're discussing it in classes, it's being brought up. How does that make you feel that your story is being used in the curriculum for a university and being taught to students at a university level?
Well, it's amazing. I mean, it's every writer's dream to have your story so accessible. But I think particularly with the content of the story, I think what has always moved me is how much people connect to it in their own various ways. And when I was writing it, I had no idea whether people even want to read it. Maybe people will be scared of reading it. So it's always been really interesting for me to see how people are absorbing it and what people are doing with it. It's remarkable. It has a whole life of its own that is beyond me.
Beyond you. But now, obviously, you're removed from this, but you can look back on it and be able to talk to people and share your story even outside of the book and give them more context to the book. And that's, I guess now that kind of lives on in the fact that you can keep telling the story and relating to what's going on in this book to people, right?
Yes, absolutely. You know, I mean, this story in the book happened years ago, and you know, I wrote the book in 2007, but people who I encountering now is their first time. So I also have to honor that novelty for them in their mind, the images that are, you know, all the way in my past are fresh in their mind. So I also have to honor that curiosity when I meet them, you know.
Well, it's good that you've written this book and that Troy University students get to learn a little something about what's going on in a part of the world they probably didn't know about until then. We want to thank you for joining us today and welcome you to Troy University.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us on today's edition of Trojan Talk. And that's what happened on the last week of September 2015. To find out what's happening throughout the week, you can tune into Troy TrojanVision News at 5, 6:30, and 10:30 Monday through Friday, or anytime by following us on Twitter at Troy TV News. Also, feel free to like our Troy TrojanVision News fan page on Facebook to see links to online content from Troy TrojanVision News. We hope you join us again next week for another edition of Troy TrojanVision Weekly. Have a good week.